Hi folks, and welcome back to another fly tying tutorial. The fly you see in the vise was not tied by me. It was tied by a very gifted tyer, Peter Dunne. He ties Irish flies and he sent me half a dozen over to have a go at. Now, they're tied on quite small hooks, so I'm going to try and imitate Peter's tying as best I can. I don't have all the ingredients that he uses, but I will make do with what I have. He did send some notes with the flies, and I will read out the notes on this fly. Hanna's Hare's Ear, a fly from Tommy Hanna, an extraordinary individual who devised some deadly patterns over the years. A very clever practitioner who corresponded regularly with gemmed skews. Tommy's book Fly Fishing in Ireland, 1933, is a must in any fly tying library. This pattern is superb during olive hatches, and I have found it extraordinarily effective during iron blue hatches in size 16. So, without further ado, let's get into it. The hook in the vise then is a Hanna H200 barbless hook. This one's at size 14. It's finished in black nickel and it's on a heavy wire hook. The thread I'm going to be using today is from Simplify. It's Nano Silk in black at 12/0. And as always with the Nano Silks, I don't know what skews would have thought, but I'm going to use some super glue just to bed in my Nano Silk to get me started. I'll just use the silk to spread the glue up the shank and then add a bed of silk down onto the shank of the hook. Now, I really appreciate Peter taking the time to tie up and send me these patterns. They really are beautifully tied, and I often think of myself as a rough fly tyer. I tie flies to catch fish for my own needs, and that's pretty much how I got started. But since doing the YouTube, I've learned quite a lot from various individuals, and it is very kind that people take the time to correct me when I get it wrong. So for the tail, I'm just using an old Indian cape. I'm going to take a good pinch of fibres from that. I'll just get them lined up. Now, one of the things I noticed with Peter's fly is I would tend to go for the length of the shank, and his is slightly longer on the pattern that he sent me, so I'll just tie it a little longer than I would normally and catch that in. That's maybe a little too long, I think. So I'm going to come back, just dress that up slightly, and catch that in like so. That looks a lot better to me. I've never been one for following recipes as well, so I'm a little nervous tying this. I don't want to do Peter a disservice. Now, I don't have the rib, the wide sort of tinsel rib that he used, so what I'm going to be using is some of this stuff. It's a gold, and as you can see, it's quite thick. So I'll just catch a little bit of that in onto the shank, and of course the other thing is the size of the hook. Usually for demonstration purposes I would use a lot bigger hook, but I think you would lose the feel of the fly being on a bigger hook, so I have stuck with the size 14 Hanna, which if you're measuring that to the equivalency of a Camazan, it does come in at about size 16. Now, I haven't got any plain rabbit, so what I'm using is some Mad Rabbit from Troutline. It is rabbit, it's just got some glister and stuff through it. I don't think it'll do the pattern any harm to have a little bit of bling. Just put a little touch of that on. I suppose it doesn't need much being on such a small hook. And I'll come up the shank, and what I've got to do with this is leave plenty of room in the front, because we are going to double hackle this. There's a little bit of black and a little bit of brown, so I've caught that in, and now I'm going to come up to the front of the hook and just get some extra turns in, and I'm going to use the rotary function on the vise to bring my rib up. try and keep it nice and even. And then as it comes up, the thread should unroll to meet your rib. And I'll just catch that in like so. Then I can take away the rib. Now before I address the hackle, I'm just going to try and scruff this out a little. And I'll get a little bit of wax onto my tying silk just to hold in the hackling. Now what I'm using for the hackling is I've got this dyed black grizzle cape. It's not ideal for this pattern, but it's what I've got, and I've got what's left of this saddle, which I'm using one of the tip feathers off. Now I've already prepared the feathers. The first one I'm going to tie in is the black dyed grizzle. I'll just get a couple of turns in, and then next I'll come in with the saddle, and I've caught them both in at the same time. Now for this I want to bring the hackles up at the same time. So as you can see, the black one is slightly shorter than the ginger one, but I need to get the maximum amount out of both hackles. Because it's such a small fly, it won't need very much, to be fair. So I'll bring them up together, just pushing the hackle back with my fingers, trying to get in as much as I can. And then I'll catch both fibres in with a couple of turns. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch my hackle pliers just over the handle of my vise here. I'll lick my thumb and forefinger, slick all them fibres back out the way, try and catch in all the fibres, then you won't have to trim them off later on. Now one's going to escape me there, but I'm going to take that on the chin. I've built my head, just come in with my scissors and remove that errant fibre. And then before I finish the fly off, I'm going to just add a little bit of super glue to my nano silk so that I don't have to try and go in with a needle on such a small fly afterwards. And then again, I'm using my fingers just to keep everything out of the way, and a 3-turn whip finish. Again, come in with your scissors, take your thread. Now I kept the hackle pliers on for a reason, and the reason is I can just pull away that thread. Now it's not nearly as good as Peter's imitation, but for government work I think I'll probably get away with it. So let me just show you Peter's tying. You can see he's got the proportions are just much better. A shorter body, a shorter thicker body, and the gold's really showing through there, but not too bad an effort. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Peter, thanks very much for your letter and the flies, and I'll look forward to doing another one next week.